In this In this talk, Karen will share with us how to have a webinar or a live presentation that gets results, namely more sales and new clients. Grow your business directly and quickly through a well-structured webinar presentation and offer. Please join me in welcoming the amazing Karen McGregor to share with us today. As I also remind Miss Karen, please start your speaker timer. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thanks for the reminder, Debbie. And thank you so much, all of you, for being here today. I'm very blessed to be with you. I know that Cindy and Chuck and Debbie, I've known for several years now and love this community, and happy to be back. So today we're going to have a little bit of a different take. I for many, many years have been speaking about the importance of speaking. But of course, with the pandemic, that speaking has turned mainly into webinars for people. So whether you're someone who enjoys speaking in person, or whether you'd rather sit behind a screen and speak to people, both will apply. Everything that I'm going to say will apply both to webinars and to live talks, which hopefully we'll be doing very soon. I'm just going to share with you a really quick 2-minute video to give you a sense of who I am and why I'm actually here to help you.
Karen McGregor has supported thousands of entrepreneurs over the past decade, increasing their sales many times over through the power of high converting talks and webinars.
Going through a divorce, having lawyers tell me, Karen, you have to go back and get a real job. This speaking and writing books business clearly isn't working. Just go back. And in my head, I knew that they were right, but in my heart, my soul's calling, I knew that there had to be a better way.
She walks the talk every day, sharing her message on stage with luminaries like Deepak Chopra, John Gray, David Wolfe, and none other than Tony Robbins.
20 years ago, when I first met Tony Robbins, saw him speak, I said to myself, I'm going to share the stage with that man one day. That one day is today.
Karen is the founder of Speaker Success Formula and the wildly popular Rock the Stage program for entrepreneurs who want direct results of sales and more clients through speaking and webinars.
So I have a really soft spot in my heart for people who do have a great message. They do have a great program, product, or service, but they're not able to make it. And so that's my mission, to help those people.
I would absolutely 1000% recommend working with Karen. The investment has paid itself off over and over again and will for the rest of my business.
My business became easier, things started to flow, and I didn't have to try or work so hard. And to me, that was worth its weight in gold.
Once I took Rock the Stage, my very first event that I spoke at, I made almost $6,000, and that was just the first.
Her TEDx talk is being seen by over 1 million people, making it one of the top 1% of TEDx talks viewed. Karen is the Wall Street Journal bestselling author of the Tao of Influence, ancient wisdom for modern leaders and entrepreneurs. Her ideas and direct quotes have been featured on hundreds of news and prominent media outlets. Please help me welcome Karen McGregor.
Thank you so much, everybody. And I am here to do exactly what it says in the video, which is to help you to recognize how your speaking and webinars can produce consistent, that's the big word if you're writing notes, consistent income and impact. Because a lot of us speak, or we might speak for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, or maybe even we get an hour to speak, but it's not consistent results in terms of our business. So that's really what I want to talk to you about today. First thing is, one of the things that all these people have in common that I've shared the stage with is that they are consistently doing talks and webinars throughout their careers. In fact, Tony Robbins was speaking in his 20s 3 times a day. That's right, not 3 times a week, 3 times a day. And so when you think about him and his following and the people that have taken his programs, you think of how that adds up. Now, I'm not suggesting that any of us go out and speak 3 times a day or have 3 webinars a day, but you can see, why all these people on the screen have had the success that they've had. So, I know many of you here, I've written down some of the things that you do. Some of you are in health related wellness, financial services, branding, photography, nonprofits, nutrition. And so whatever it is that you do, or perhaps you sell a particular product that isn't even built by you, and that's great, that's fine. But all of those could be direct sales or indirect sales through a webinar or a talk, rather than doing just one-to-one coffee dates, which are important, but you want to learn to leverage your time properly. Most people don't do it because they don't get the results, so they stop doing it. That's why I'm here today. So I want to share with you why webinars and speaking have that high return on investment. The first thing is, when you do a webinar on someone else's stage, so write that down. You're not trying to hit up your list over and over again, make them fatigued, get them annoyed with you. That's not what we want to do. So we want to be on other people's stages. And I think Cindy earlier had said a quote that I often say to people, feel free to write this down. And that's, rather than spend time looking for clients, spend far more time looking for those who have access to your clients. And when you do that, that means that those people have communities that you're speaking to. Those people have communities that will come and listen and hear what you have to say. And so you don't have to pay for that, right? You go and you do a great webinar, whether it's 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 2 hours, whatever that is. But it's a powerful way to leverage your time. It's highly duplicatable, so both your live talk and your webinar can be used for years, and they're the same thing. There might be 1 or 2 small tweaks that you make between your live talk and your live webinar, but they're essentially the same. So myself and my students, we use the same talk for years and years and years. Yeah, you might tweak it for a particular audience, but that's why I'm suggesting that you consider this as one of your marketing and sales regular things that you do, because it's just so duplicatable, and you only need one. You don't need more than one. The other good news is that when you're going to create a webinar or a talk, and it's something that gets you consistent results, it does, you don't need to have a big database or a big list. You don't need to be trying so hard to build it up. Yes, it's important to build it up, but my son, who I'm going to talk to you about in a second here, he started with 300 people on his database, and he has now a multi-million-dollar company where all of the income comes from webinars. And I'll talk to you about that in a bit. But the good news is none of us have to do that, because the database, the people that we're actually speaking to, are someone else's community, right? Someone else's group. So whether it's conferences, associations, meetups, joint ventures that you're doing, networking groups like this beautiful one, whatever it is, but you are getting in front of people consistently. This middle guy here is my son. I'm very proud of him. He owns a company called 22 Apps, the number 22 Apps. You can look him up. Anyway, he has a multi-million-dollar company now. And when he started just a few short years ago, he started with a company called Client Conversion Formula. I taught him how to do webinars. He did the webinars. He reached 6 figures in his first year. And he looked like a baby. He looked 15 years old at the time. Now, his income is already at 600,000, and it's not even like halfway through the year yet, right? So just from this year alone, sorry. So we know that when you have a good product, and you have a good webinar, the two go together. You can't have a lousy product or program or service and have a good webinar. That doesn't work. You need both to go together. And so that's what he has. He has a great app provider for entrepreneurs that he had built out. So the other thing you want to know is more than ever before, it doesn't even matter what the time zone is anymore. People, I just held one of my trainings just this weekend, and there was a person from Australia there and a person from Israel there. And they were not on my list, everyone. I didn't know who they were. And they joined my program through a webinar, right? So that is something that is happening more and more. I have people from Germany, England, and they don't care. They'll go through the night to learn if they have to, because they know that, you know, when you've got something good or you have a product that they want to buy, suddenly things are global. And of course, TEDx is also very global. That's why I'm showing it to you. That's a global platform. But you have to think of webinars also as a global platform. So what we want to do is go from one-to-one, which we can still do. And, you know, it's still highly effective, as Cindy points out. But you also want to go from one to many. Personally, I'm a single mom. I've had, a huge amount to do outside of my business between raising my two boys, an aging, mother, and trying to have a love life again. And that all takes time, right? So we don't want our business to take all of our time up. So that's another reason for webinars. And then, of course, the numbers that you can expect is around 10% of the people in a cold audience to say, yes, I want to work with you, whether it's a direct sale or an indirect sale. Approximately 10% is the average, if you know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, it's much, much less. And that's why people get frustrated, of course, right? But if you speak twice a month to an average of 70 people in total, that's where $1,000 program, product, or service earns you a six-figure income. Now, why aren't more people doing it? Well, the truth is, it's because they don't have a system that actually contributes to the effectiveness of their results. And so they don't treat speaking, every time they open their mouth, they don't treat it as a structure, as a system. They wing it, or they try to be overly perfect, but neither one of those really works because they don't know what's getting them the results. I was the same way. I was a teacher. I have my master's in education, and I just thought, well, if I just teach them, that's all I need to learn about how to be an entrepreneur. Has anyone ever thought that? I'm a good educator. I'm going to be fine. And of course, I found myself going through a divorce, and the lawyer's telling me, Karen, you have to go back and get a real job. This speaking and writing books business isn't working for you. And so I knew, on paper, that they were right, but type it in the chat box if you've ever thought, you know what, they're wrong. My soul knows that these people are wrong, and I'm going to make this business work. Has anyone ever thought that? I know it definitely was for me as well. So fast forward, I hired mentors. I didn't have the money at the time. And over the last 10 years, I've been with my children on many different trips around the world, and have had a really, really wonderful lifestyle, earning multiple six-figure income every single year for the past 10 years. So I want that for you too. And obviously not just the income, but the impact is more important. On my deathbed, I don't care about how much money I've made. I want to know that I've made a difference in the world. Anybody else with me on that? Right? That's what matters at the end of the day. So I'm just going to talk to you very quickly. I know we only have, unfortunately, very little time. So I'll just run through this quickly, and then I'll show you a way, if you want, a gift to take this all further. So when we look at mistakes that people make in developing their talk and webinar, one of the first is not understanding what the audience is buying. So really the only thing the audience wants is to get from where they are to where they want to be. And when you structure your talk properly for them to get from where they are to where they want to be, that's very important. But most people actually don't do that. The other thing they don't do is consider including a powerful story of where their audience was at one time. Maybe they were there themselves. Maybe that's why we do what we do, is because we know what it was like to suffer, and now we want to help people. So telling your story is important. Now I share a whole story structure. We don't have time to get into that, but that's part of it. Your expertise is also important, but it's only in terms of the results. The results you get are the most important part of your expertise. It's not your biography. So write that down. That's good news. People want to know your results, not so much your biography. And then, of course, you have client stories, within your webinar or talk. And the most powerful client stories are going to always, write this down, be your results-based testimonials. So it's fine if they say, oh, Jane is the greatest, whatever it is, interior designer I've ever worked with. Well, fine, but why? What were the results you got? So as an example, Christina working with me, her first 3 talks, she netted $36,000 after creating her talk and webinar. So that's specific results. Doesn't have to be money oriented, but you want specific results. The other thing is to get testimonials from doubtful people. Did you know that 20% of every webinar or every talk you have, people are going to be doubtful that you can help them? They'll listen, they'll be polite, but they're going to be very doubtful that you can help them. So when you have those people recognize, because they took your program, product, or service, that they're getting results, you need to use those in your webinar, or because definitely you're going to get a big percentage of people appreciating that. This woman thought I couldn't help her because nothing helped her up to that point. She was doing all sorts of expensive marketing and sales. And then when I helped her do a talk that worked, she's a nutritional expert, and she had people running to the back of the room to buy a $2,000 program of hers around nutrition. So we know it works. I don't advocate running to the back of the room, but certainly she was very happy with her results. So mistake number 2 is becoming the perfect speaker. And please know, this is not about perfection. I always love to laugh with people, be easygoing, be myself. I don't want to be that really stilted, unnatural speaker. And I don't think any of us want that. But we tend to get stuck in perfection and procrastination because we don't want to make mistakes. And that's really where I come in, is I really support people to see that you can make mistakes. Like you could forget a word, or you could forget a piece, and you'll still have the same results because you've got structure that works within the context of that talk. Fear of selling, that's another thing. A lot of people have that, but when you get consistency of results, the fear of selling goes way, way down. You still might be nervous, but when you know the results before you even go and do the webinar, that's a big thing. Now I see I'm running out of time here already, so I'm going to just share with you a couple quick things here. So rather than be a perfectionist, or rather than wing it, what is the answer there? Because we don't want to wing it either, right? We don't want to be perfect, but we don't want to wing it, because that means no consistency of results. This lady was a winger for a long time, and she came and did my training, and she had 24 webinar registrants. So again, doesn't have to be a lot of people. And she had 12 people in attendance, 6 buyers of a $2,000 package. So she was elated. She made $12,000 in her first webinar, and she was a winger. And she said, Karen, finally, I have a structure that's getting me consistency of results. So that's what I want for all of you. That's why I'm giving you a gift today. It's called Webinars That Sell. It's my masterclass. It is about an hour and 40 minutes long. I highly recommend, if you can, to attend, because it will go through in much, much more depth than we have time to do today. It'll go through things like what are some of the things that you can do properly to get the results for people to say yes before they even get to your offer. That's an important thing, is what can we do for our clients to want what we have even before we ever offer it to them. So that's one of the things. Another thing is, what are some of the things about your offer that are perhaps not strong, so I go into that. Also, what are some of the things you need for your back end of your webinar, to be able to have lots of people show up to your webinar, or have lots of people show up to your live talk. So these things are all important. Cindy, I haven't even checked the chat box yet, but if you can put that link in, that would be awesome.
Yes, Amanda is going to do that for you. So thank you. Thank you so much for all the great information, Karen. Okay, so Karen, thank you so much for your talk and for sharing so much great information. And so feel free to unmute yourself. We want to be able to have our attendees share some takeaways from the information that you shared with us today.
Beautiful.
So these are like ahas, epiphanies, or even action items that you want to put into effect.
I'm glad to see that so many people are registering. Awesome, good stuff. I'm known as someone who delivers, everyone. So I will both answer your questions right now or any insights you have. Wonderful. So much more coming up next Tuesday.
So Amy, I see you raising your hand, and go ahead.
Excuse me. I thought it was really cool that you talked about when you get the people that are or the hesitant Hatties or whatever, the doubtful Debbies or whatever, the ones that are like, I don't know, I've done like 5 of these before, I'm one of those people that's taken a lot of workshops, so I understand that kind of thing. Anyway, so yeah, that was great, a super great tip, because it helps you also to sort of think about like because I have a lot of I have only 5-star reviews, so but when I'm writing testimonials and stuff, or writing things like this client was like here's A and now here's Z kind of thing. That's great because it excuse me, gets you to sort of think in your mind like, okay, who are the people that were the really like hard sells, or like in my case, it were the people that like their eyeballs were so crossed with their relocation, they had like no idea where to start, and they had like 2 months to do it, and they're just like, and then at the end they're like, what? That was the best thing ever. What? And our marriage is better now? Oh my God, that kind of stuff. So
yeah, and I love the way you're telling it is through a story means, and I always call that a case study, because testimonials traditionally are written and case studies are told as a story. So it's good to have both as part of your webinar or your talk. Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
You got into it a little bit, Karen, in your talk today, but in the past when we've had you as a presenter, both for a spotlight speaker and for a scale shot presenter, I love the way you frame the testimonials, because Karen actually has a formula for that, where, as you noticed, one of the examples was you put the photo of the person and maybe a quote and a little bit about the story and what they do. And so you get a nice picture that she's painting of the person that's giving that testimonial. I think it's really brilliant, because when you just see the quote, it doesn't have the same weight as when there's a photo and a little more information about that person.
Yes. And the thing is, we always think that people want to hear about people like us because that's just the way the human brain works. But when we are choosing our testimonials, we want to have people who are very different from us. So as an example, a lot of people think that I'm very outgoing, that I don't have any fear of talking to people, which is actually not true. I'm actually very introverted, but people see me as very extroverted. And so I give examples in some other talks you haven't seen, but examples of how the person is extremely introverted and was afraid to speak. But because of the structure they learned, they were able to get through that. So there's this also uncovering the myths of your whatever it is that you talk about. What are some of the myths? And so that's a nice way as well of uncovering some of the myths, is to go into people who are least likely to succeed according to the audience, but then you show how actually they can succeed even more than some of the people who they thought would be more likely to succeed.
Yes, what a great point. So last chance, anybody want to share epiphany, aha, takeaway? All right. So thank you so much, Karen, and thanks for the generous offer of the masterclass. We're looking forward to another opportunity to glean more brilliant nuggets from you. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.